On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Hellenic Initiative, it's my pleasure, Peter Poulos, to welcome you to THI's Digital Speaker Series event, Pathways to Obtaining Greek Citizenship. And there could be no more timely speaker series event than to welcome the New York City Consul General, Konstantinos Koutras, Ms. Eunice Bueller, our good friends George Zapantis and Tassos Pardalis, as they discuss the ways to obtain your Greek citizenship. Dr. Koutras has served in the diplomatic sector in different positions since 2003 and has served as the Consul General in New York City since May of 2016. I met him soon after he arrived in New York, as I myself have been trying to obtain my Greek citizenship for years. And it was with his guidance and patience and help and humor that I was successful in becoming a Greek citizen, something that I had wished for and dreamt about for most of my adult life. Thank you. The Consul General and the amazing professional team at the Consulate, including Evelyn Canalea, Mr. Pappas, the former Deputy Head of Mission, Emmanuel Kubarakis, Kiki, have transformed the office into what has to be one of the most efficient, productive, and customer service-oriented Greek government offices in all of the world. That is not an exaggeration. We are beyond fortunate as a country and a people to have someone with his talents, drive, and vision in this position. Thank you, Consul General. And we're equally fortunate to have with us three exceptional members of our Greek community in the conversation today. The extraordinary Eunice Bueller, George Zapantis, and Tassos Pardalis are members of THI's very vibrant New Leaders group. Our New Leaders, for those of you who do not know, is our 40 years and younger Greek professional group. They are also members of our newly formed law group of our Global Corporate Partners program, and it is this group that organized today's event. The other members of that committee are Konstantinos Karvelas, Panos Katsambas in London, Nick Kolovos in Washington, DC, and John Vavas. And so we're pleased to have all of these very busy people with us today. Mr. Zapantis, George will be moderating the discussion as soon as the Consul General makes his remarks. And before we get started, I would like to just thank THI's staff, who has been working overtime since the COVID-19 crisis began. A very big thanks to Artemis Kohas, who is the head of our New Leaders group, and as many of you know, is like working overtime on putting together all these fantastic events. And to Michael Printzos, Maria Papastathi, Tina Korpus, Tenny Kuvelli, Dean Sirigos, Tatiana Blatnik, and Nixis Menaikis, John Mandala. So thank you to all of them. And now I'd like to hand it over to the Consul General.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good morning, everybody, fellow Greeks, dear Hellenic Initiative members. Greetings from Park Avenue. We Greeks say, "Ουδέν κακόν αμυγές καλού," Peter. There's always something good in every bad. It took a pandemic for the Hellenic American community to bring Greece even closer to their heart. So a big welcome to all of our new members added to the Greek family, just like you. Coming to our discussion's main topic today, from the very first moment, and you know that very well, Peter, I came to New York in summer 2016, I was very much preoccupied with how to improve the service provided by this consulate. One of the main reasons to do that was my concern regarding citizenship matters. Unfortunately, as you know very well, European law, and Greek in particular, is intricate and adds many requirements. Tassos is laughing. He knows that very well. This put off many Americans of Greek descent, and I always regretted the idea of losing touch with my community because of a missing family registration from a remote Greek island, for example. Therefore, among other modifications, our updated website, our new e-appointment system, our e-proxenos system, which is direct connected with the National Metro in Athens, we have decided, and it was actually decided by the government, the Prime Minister Mitsotakis himself, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Pierakakis, Mr. Vlasis, to run a pilot project and to create a service on our website, which, based on artificial intelligence, can help citizens get their answers on citizenship questions, among other things. And we are very proud, Tasso, since we are the first consular authority in the world and the first Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the world implementing artificial intelligence in our website, in servicing the people. So you can find it on our homepage, and it is very easy to use. You click on the right button. I'm doing that every day, guys, to tell you the truth. I'm doing that every day. Even for me, it's helpful. The systems ask you questions, and depending on the answers you provide, you are given the appropriate list of supporting documents. I know, of course, I cannot change legislation, although, believe me, we have suggested many improvements and simplifications based on our experience and expertise here, so that we facilitate the process of you becoming a Greek citizen. It's not a very easy task, though. Of course, one might ask, Peter, why Greek citizenship? And that is a crucial question. We know it has become the latest trend to obtain a European passport, and even the New York Times reported on this. But I must say that a passport, according to my personal opinion, should not be the ultimate goal. Getting in touch with our Greek roots is a very fulfilling act, and it passes through citizenship. We Greeks, Peter, we were the first to teach that lesson of civic duty to the world through our democratic institutions. Greek citizenship grants you European citizenship as well, and that is so important. The European Union is a family of close to 500 million people. Although not a state per se, and everybody knows the weak points of the European Union is a global power. Having a European Union passport enables you to travel, to study, to work, and live freely in all Europe's capital cities. Allow me to put special emphasis on the verb study, Peter. As you may know, many Europeans get their major in Europe almost for free, guys, and come to the US only for their postgraduate studies. This, and we know the fees, the tuition here in the United States of the good universities, this can help a family save thousands of dollars. Europe offers many English taught programs, which are academically attractive and financially accessible because they are being supported by government funds. You know, I have studied and made my PhD in Germany. You too can enjoy that benefit if you're a Greek citizen. Consider it as an investment in your children's future. When I came for my service in the United States, I was astonished to hear, Peter, and we have discussed on that Greek families were hiding their male children for fear of sending their boys to the Greek army. Is it correct, Tasso?
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
That is insane. No American-born male has to serve the Greek army unless they want to. But even if they do, I can assure you that is going to be a very interesting experience. Furthermore, nowadays, Greek citizenship can grant you the right to vote for Greek national elections from abroad. Most of you have property in Greece. Many of you even work and live some time there as well. Therefore, being able to vote without leaving the United States will help you become even more involved. As a conclusion, Peter, I wish to say that I do encourage everyone to start their citizenship process. Go to our website and use the virtual assistant I mentioned before for understanding what documents to bring. If you have the taxes, the famous taxes net codes, use the website gov.gr as well. It is your gateway to Greek authorities. There is a revolution as regards the service of the state to the citizens with Prime Minister Mitsotakis and the Minister Pierakakis. They are doing an amazing job. Use our citizenship department email address and do not hesitate to mail questions. Please, please, do not use the phone. because it is humanly impossible for two people, for Evelyn, as you mentioned, Peter and Kiki, to handle everything, including emails and phone calls. I remind you, Peter, we talked before, that we get approximately 100 citizenship requests by email per day. 100 requests per day. When time is right, you will be given an appointment. I can assure you this will be done within a month or two maximum. Citizenship registration take up to a year to be finalized, and Tassos know that very well. We know it is frustrating, but it remains a fact that needs to be taken into consideration. And finally, please, do not neglect to register your life events. We have people, Peter, coming to the consulate in their 80s or 90s, asking to register a marriage which took place half a century ago. This will, of course, entail delays. When you get married or give birth to a child, please register it to the consulate so that your records are updated. This way, we can be all very happy about making our Greek family larger and larger. That was all I had to say for the time being. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you, all of you, for this wonderful initiative, and congratulations for all the events that you're organizing.
Thank you, Consul General. I mean, once again, that short talk of yours was just jam-packed with useful information for every single person that's on this call. And I think, the culture of no that I think many of us experienced, with like past, in the past at the consulate, has been now turned into a culture of yes, because of your leadership and vision. A huge thank you to you for doing that. And I mean, I can't imagine in the past, and a consul general getting on and encouraging people to apply for Greek citizenship. So thank you for doing that. And now I would like to turn it over to our THI's great friend and longtime supporter, George Zapantis.
Great, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Dr. Koutras, for providing that insight from the consulate's experience. Before I move on, I too would like to attest to the fact that the consulate has never been more efficient and productive as it is now. And this in light of the exponential growth in demand for services. So, I think it needs to be said, congratulations to you, Dr. Koutras, and to your team there. You are accomplishing superhuman feats for our community. So moving on from that, ladies and gentlemen, in a year defined by a global pandemic, and filled with uncertainty, lockdowns, surging infection rates, travel restrictions, people were forced to examine options and ask questions of themselves. Among these questions were, am I living where I want to be living? Can I travel freely? Remember, in light of travel restrictions that were taking hold and in existence in certain respects as well. As Greeks of the diaspora, many of us have asked these very questions, which is what prompted us to put together today's event in an effort to provide both an overview of the citizenship/passport process and to demystify this process. Before we head on to our panelists, I'd like to address the broad point that Greece views citizenship as a right, and that right is conferred at birth, and those individuals whom are eligible can move on to obtain their citizenship documents, and ultimately, as Dr. Koutras mentioned, the coveted Greek passport, which opens the doors to the entire European Union. Today, we have two amazing panelists who will discuss the process from their two different perspectives. Our first panelist is Tasso Pardalis. Tasso is a partner at Pardalis & Hovica, a general practice law firm with offices located in Manhattan and Astoria here in New York City. Tasso will discuss his experience in helping clients obtain these Greek citizenship papers/passports. So, Tasso, people call your office, they email you, they stop you in the street when you're getting your coffee, and they ask you, my papu and yaya were born in Greece, but my father was born in Brooklyn. My mother was born in Greece, but I was born in New York City. Or in the situation of people in outside of the US, in Australia. or in Germany or in South America. And then they ask you, can I obtain my Greek passport? Am I even a Greek citizen? Is this automatic, or do I have to obtain certain papers? Where do you begin to unravel this?
Thank you, George, and good afternoon, everyone. The first answer to everyone is always, you do not need an attorney to do this. And the consulate has it so well set up right now, although they do have a staggering amount of volume. They have it so well set up right now for you to begin and ultimately complete this process online that I literally urge every person who contacts to do it themselves. Some people just, they don't want to, or they don't want to deal with it, or they don't even know where to begin and they prefer to have an attorney do it, but it is definitely not necessary. So before I get into that, George, if it's okay, I'd just like to say something about the consulate as well, based on my recent experience. So I just want to highlight the amazing work that this administration is doing and really help everyone understand just how much they've innovated the Greek citizenship registration process, both technologically and efficiency-wise. The volume of applications that we heard about, which is 100 a day, it's staggering when you think about it over months or over years, right? And most businesses, and I know the consulate's not a business, but most businesses under this kind of pressure would fail, right? And what this consulate has done, not only in keeping up with all of the influx, but also keeping in constant communication with everyone. It's remarkable and a testament to just how tirelessly their team is working. And so I just wanted to thank Dr. Koutras myself and reiterate, of course, the things that everyone said. But back to George's question, let's begin, okay? So there are three main ways to obtain Greek citizenship. So depending how that question comes in, right? I was born in New York, my father was born in Athens, etc. But there are three main ways, and two follow the same process, but there's three. There's birth, there's marriage, and there's naturalization, okay? So where do you begin if you're giving this a go yourself? Most of us, first generation, let's say, go through the birth or marriage registration, okay? And in Greece, the birth and marriage registration pretty much happen through the same process, although the documents differ a little bit. But all of it, no matter which process you go through, whether that's birth and marriage or naturalization, begins with filling out a questionnaire that goes to Dr. Koutras's office at the consulate. Whether you're doing that with an attorney or whether you're doing that yourself, someone's filling out that form, okay? And that form includes your name and your parents' names and the dates of birth for you and your parents and the place of birth of your parents and your grandparents as well. And that form is submitted to the consulate here in New York, or depending where you live, to the nearest consulate in your region. And that consulate will then, based on the information you've provided, respond with which direction you should take. Should you go for a birth or marriage registration? Should you go for a naturalization registration? And more importantly, which documents you're going to need to gather and have translated in certified translation and have apostilled to submit to the consulate to get that process going, okay? Usually those documents, they're certain that are always there, and that's your long form birth certificate, your marriage certificate for you and your parents in long form, the religious marriage certificate from the archdiocese, any divorce decrees if those are applicable, death certificates, copy of your US passport, copy of any Greek passports, copy of any Greek IDs if somebody has them in your family, right? Almost every one of these documents will have to be certified, translated, and apostilled, and then you can submit it to the consulate. But they will literally tell you, after you put in your query, they will respond and say, this is your process, these are the documents we need, okay? Once those documents are submitted with the apostils and the certified translations, you will wait for the consulate to validate or stamp those documents as requested. And once the consulate validates or stamps the document, the job is not done. That's where the fun begins, okay? At this juncture, once you've submitted your query, received the information you need to submit, submitted that information and received validation, you have two potential paths. The first is you can sit and wait and the consulate will request and process and receive your Greek registered vital records. That takes a much longer time than the method that I prefer, which is you either go in person or you have someone, a family member or an attorney on the ground in Greece, go and register your family's vital records in Athens. And this is now a two-agency process, which goes a little bit to what Dr. Koutras was saying about the new offices. Okay, so in Greece, to register the vital records, you first go to the special registry office in Athens, where you take the validated documents from the consulate and you submit those. That is called the Lexi for those of you that have ever been there, okay? The second step now is you will also register the vital records in these documents at the new Centralized Local Municipality Office, also referred to as CEP, which will now save you from having to run to your village or your island or your remote part of Greece and run to the police station and have these documents registered. This new CEP office is really great because you can kind of go to Athens and dispose of these items yourself, right? And they've made it much easier. And I think that's what Doctor was referring to earlier when he said, you know, going now to your island and figuring out your ancestral documents, it was a nightmare for many people, especially people that don't visit regularly. And now this can all be done in Athens through the special registry and the CEP office. So once you've done that and you've filed at the special registry and filed at CEP, you will have received a registration number or a proof of verification of those vital records. You will then take that proof of registration or that number, and you will submit that proof back to the consulate, showing that you have submitted those documents that they validated to the two agencies in Greece. At this part of the process is called the vevaiousi, and we wait then for the consulate to check in with those offices and to come back and say, yes, everything is completed, they confirm that it's all done, and finally you will be done running around and submitting documents internationally, and you will wait for your stamp and your registration, okay? So we just went through a very simplified version, of course, there's about 100 different tangents and subsects there, but we just went through the very simplified procedure for application through birth or marriage. There are, of course, many scenarios where this process differs, and I don't think we're going to get into all of those today because I can probably go on for 2 or 3 hours, much like Dr. Koutras could on this subject. But the other main process for registration is the naturalization registration, or the politografisi, okay? And this is where perhaps your parents were born here and you were born here. So you don't have any registration going on in Greece as far as birth certificates of your parents or a marriage certificate of your parents. So usually the politografisi, or the natural registration, is you applying for naturalization through your grandparents. That's the most customary scenario. So the documents that you're going to need here are very similar to the documents you will need in the marriage or birth registration process. However, they're going to be an expanded version of those, where you'll have to kind of lay out your grandparents' connection to Greece, and whether it's their marriage or their birth or their property ownership or any legal format where you could connect your ancestral lineage from your grandparents to the homeland, okay? And one of the key differences here, for those of you that go at this alone, is that when you register through the naturalization process, after you submit your query to the consulate and after they come back and they tell you, okay, you're going naturalization, and these are the forms you need to get us, and after the consulate then again validates those forms, you will not go to the special registry in Athens, and you will not go to CEP. It's a different agency that you're going to go to for the naturalization. And forgive me if I butcher this, Kyrie Proxene, but I believe that's the politografio, okay, which is a separate Greek government body that is separate from the special registry and CEP, that handles naturalization applications only, okay? And so that's where you will go. That part of the process is actually a bit simpler for people that are going it alone, because you don't have to run to 2 different agencies and make sure you have registration numbers and come back and file your proof of registration with the consulate. However, it does take longer in my experience so far, right? It's a much longer process, but it's much easier because you just go to one office and kind of check in and drop off your documents, okay? So that's an overview of the 2 most common registrations that we're seeing and that I believe everyone's filing out there. There are, of course, many variations to this. And some of the more common variations, which we can discuss in more detail separately if anybody wants to contact me, or I can do in the Q&A. But one is the registration of the birth of a person born before May 8th, 1984, to only one Greek parent. So we see that a lot. We see a lot of people born before 84, and 84 is this magical date that exists in the law there, but where only one parent is Greek. And that is a separate process from, it's still part of the birth registration, but it is a much different process with much different documents and many more complications, okay? And then we have the penultimate complicated scenario, which is the registration by someone born out of wedlock, possibly to even one Greek parent, okay? And this is a scenario where, well, I like to say everyone go at it alone. You probably need an attorney in Greece as well for this process, because it does get very, very complicated. And for anyone in those categories, I'm happy to speak or answer questions. And so, you know, guys, I hope that this quick rundown was helpful. I know it was very short, but we could have gone on forever on this topic. And, you know, we at our firm, we have attorneys that are admitted both here in the United States and in Greece, and we go back and forth a lot, and we have people on the ground there. And so if there's any questions that we can answer, that, you know, our phones are always on, and we respond to our emails as quickly as we can. And we'd love to hear from everyone. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll turn it back to George. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tasso. I know that was a lot of information that we threw out to people, but I think it was a really, really valuable overview.
I'm so sorry. I am going to share with THI, and of course, hopefully we'll share it with everyone attending, a more detailed breakdown of this simplified process that I went through. So you'll be able to have a document that has a lot more information, and it'll give you a list of all the documents you need to submit, depending which path you choose. So hopefully that'll be helpful to a lot of you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tasso. You know, a list
Thanks.
like that will act like a flow chart and a guide, and it'll certainly serve to demystify the process, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you so much for that. Questions are coming in.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
May I ask
yes,
a question
Dr.
to Tasso
Koutras.
as a professional? Tasso, do you use our virtual assistant?
Yes. Every time we do something.
Ah, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Yeah. It's amazing, actually. And, you know, if that gets expanded on, I imagine that the process will not need anybody other than the individual, and it'll all be done. I mean, you can upload the documents, everything's there now. So
exactly. This is what I would like to say. It is going to be expanded not only in the United States, but also it's up and running in London, and it will be expanded all over the world. And not only that, the Prime Minister has given the way ahead so that we are going to have it completed as a platform to receive also requests, identifying the people, connected with all the databases of the Greek state, and receiving requests. In other words, all your documents, you will have to upload them in the same platform. Not necessary to mail anything, and it will be checked in the real time if the document is correct or not.
You know, I have to confess that I'm in the process of getting mine now, and I've had difficulties because of some of the documents I've had to obtain.
Exactly.
Going back, you know, ancestrally, that were never registered in my family, and being able to submit those online and get information through the query is amazing.
And the second thing that I would like to announce, of course, the minister have to announce that, is that soon, New York, we're going to have the registration here in New York. It's not necessary to do that to the special registry, because the law does exist already 2 years. So we are going, you are coming, let's say, to the consulate, you are applying for your Greek citizenship, your digital file is completed and validated. So Evelyn is going to enter all this data to her computer, directly related to the municipality you belong in Greece. Finishing in 3 minutes, this procedure. And after you go into the first floor, you apply for your Greek passport.
Oh,
That
that's
would
great.
be a revolution. It's almost up and running, almost. I think within a few months, we are going to have it as well.
I might have to just wait for that then.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
I wish that was up and running when I was doing my paperwork years ago. And in fact, Eunice Bueller and I had a competition as to who would get their Greek citizenship first. And guess who won? Eunice did.
Well, Peter, you made a valiant effort, so.
So thank you, Dr. Koutras, for that. I've also jumped on and tried the virtual assistant. It's AI. I mean, this is the future. This is what's going to be answering a lot of our questions in the very near future. And I have to tell you, I did ask it what I thought a very obscure question, and it did point me to the right direction. I was floored. I thought for sure, if I asked a human, they would have to refer back to a library or to some other reference. It gave me the documents that I needed. So it's definitely the place to start. You may find that you'll get your questions answered right then and there. And thank you again for that. We're gonna move on to, okay, so it's incredible how many questions are coming in. They're coming in from all over the world. And some of them are extraordinarily detailed. So we're going to try to get to as many as we can. The one quick one we're gonna just throw out there is, and it's coming up a lot, will this panel be available later on for viewing and for reference? The answer is yes. And the other question that has come up a couple of times, Dr. Koutras, is what is that email address for people to reach out to the consulate for the citizenship process? If you can just repeat that for us again.
For me, the most important thing is to remember one thing. Google Consulate General of Greece in New York. If I give the email address, you will forget it. We
Perfect.
teach how to learn. Huh?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Consulate
Okay.
General of Greece in New York website. You will see everything there.
Great. So there's going to be a link to that in the chat. And from there, those who fall under the purview, because again, since we do have an international audience right now, everyone needs to contact the consulate that controls the geographic area that they are in. So emailing Dr. Koutras in the New York City office when you're out in LA, probably not going to speed up your process. So just keep that in mind, everyone. And on that note, we are going to move on to our next panelist, our esteemed THI member and friend, Eunice Bueller. So Eunice is a Chicago-based attorney. However, a few years ago, as Peter mentioned, she embarked on the process of obtaining her Greek citizenship papers and passports as a layperson. So Eunice, did you wake up one morning over in cold Chicago, look over the lake?
You mean
realize
beautiful
that
Chicago, right, George?
I beg your pardon?
You meant beautiful Chicago.
I will not deny the fact that Chicago is beautiful and is an all-around awesome city, judging from the experiences that I've had there. As you know, I visited a few times. And that coming from a born and raised New Yorker, giving so much accolades to another city, I think means something. I agree. However, the fact that it can get rather cold there, and you get that cold breeze or wind coming over the lake. This is how I envisioned the inspiration for you to say, hold on a second. I'm now dreaming of sunny and warm Greece. I need to formalize my Greek citizenship and obtain that passport so I can shoot out of here and head over there and live that Greek dream.
You're right, George.
Is that how?
I did see a lot of value in a Greek passport and citizenship. First of all, in connecting with my Greek roots, as Dr. Koutras said, by being a citizen of the country that I love, of the country where my blood is from, I do feel a greater connection to the country and feel more fulfilled in serving Greece, and in particular in serving Greece through the Hellenic Initiative. There's also quite a lot of value professionally, to be able to work in Europe or in a beautiful place like Greece is very valuable. A Greek citizenship has been known to be valuable citizenship. It's in the 2020 CNN ranking, it was ranked as the number 8 most powerful citizenship to have in the world. It offers access to nearly 200 countries. And we saw during this pandemic how citizenship to Greece can actually open up a lot of doors in times of crises when doors are closed to those who are only American citizens. And actually, going through the process of becoming a Greek citizen was valuable in itself. And so I encourage those who are on today's call to consider going it alone, if you will. Although I am an attorney, I did not seek assistance of an attorney. I'm a corporate lawyer, so this isn't my area. It was new for me as far as my legal knowledge. Additionally, my parents were born and married in the United States, and my father is not Greek. He has no blood connection to Greece. So, for those of you who might be thinking that you have slightly complex situations, I would just encourage you that it's very doable. While I understand that Dr. Koutras has been making the consulate extremely efficient, I also want to give a lot of credit to the way other consulates have been working. I got my citizenship many years ago, now about 6 years ago, and found that the consulate in Chicago was extremely helpful. I think the key is to listen in great detail, to the requirements, and really understand exactly the records that you need, and then understand exactly what the offices are that you're going to and exactly how to get there. But to break it down, it's not rocket science. It's first of all, you obtain your vital records in the U.S. So you're an American citizen or whatever country you're a citizen of. You obtain your birth certificate. You're perhaps a marriage certificate. You draw a link between yourself and the Greek, the person who has Greek citizenship. So you figure out births, marriages, deaths, divorces, all that stuff. Then you have to make it official, because different governments have a hard time knowing exactly what a birth certificate might look like. So someone needs to make it official and offer support of that document, and that's what the apostille is doing. And then you need to translate it, because of course you can't expect everyone to speak every language of the world. So once you do these basic things, you can take your set of translated documents to Greece with you. And essentially you just take all of those documents where you're registered in the US or Australia or Germany, and you kind of equate that in Greece. You kind of, give Greece the, I lost my internet for a second. You kind of give Greece the same connection that you have in your home country. There's now an office to register with your municipality in Athens, which is an amazing innovation. I did this process where I registered in my Yaya's Chorio, and actually found it really enjoyable to go to Athens and get to know the office of the special registry, and start to make my way as a citizen. There's some value to knowing how your institutions work, to understanding the city, figuring out the layout of Athens. There's also a lot of value to going to your roots and going to your office of your municipality, and making a connection. Usually people are really happy to see you there. They know your family, they know your cousin or your land or something, and it's a really great experience. As far as I think some of this process has gotten a little bit of a bad rap. It was mentioned earlier that it's a kind of a culture of no. I don't think it has to be that way. I mean, I think if you think about and use some finesse and tact in working with, the people in the various offices, I think they can be extremely helpful to you. Perhaps if you just waltz in and say, "Hi, I'm an American citizenship. I'm an American citizen. Here are my papers. Make me a citizen." Yeah, maybe that wouldn't go over so well. But some understanding of where they're coming from, understanding that there's a massive workload, some understanding that, it can't all be on, your timeline. And so kind of understanding how to plan your trip to accommodate that is valuable. So I recall going to the office in Athens first, and then there was a waiting period. And so I planned to go to Athens again toward the end of my trip. And so in the middle of my trip, I went to the village office, and there on the very first day, I went to the office of the municipality office so that I could start the process, expecting that there might be, a little bit of a delay, expecting that it might not be something that could be turned on a dime. And that was a valuable approach. I was able to return back a few days later and get everything all wrapped up.
That's encouraging. And thank you for putting a human face to it as well, Eunice. I think that's really important what you said about, like part of what's beautiful about the journey of obtaining the citizenship as well is actually, going to the village, meeting people, et cetera. I mean, what the Consul General has done at the office, makes things easier for everyone, and that's fantastic. But also being in the country and registering your papers yourself, if you're able to do so, and doing all that, there's something also very valuable to that sort of human interaction. So thanks for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the consulate is usually very helpful. If you're going to go to Greece and you don't know it very well and you don't know where these offices are, I certainly did not. I asked, it was described to me, okay, go to this office. I got the name, and then I needed some explanation as to where it was. I got the name and the address, and then I got a few references as to where it was in the city. And then I got the idea of, okay, they told me it's on the 3rd floor. And so I think once you get, all the details, and your consulate is, like I said, very helpful. Once you get all the details, it's really something that you can do. And you should do, because it's rewarding, fulfilling, valuable for business, valuable for profession, for many people's professions, and really valuable for people's connections to who we all are. And I think in this year, more than any year, we've thought a lot about who we are, where we come from. I think we Greeks in particular draw a lot of strength from our ancestors. We have a strong and proud past. And when things are hard, I at least often turn to those who had it much harder than me. And that gives me a lot of strength and courage.
That's beautiful and perfectly said. Thank you.
Thank you.
George, if you don't mind me jumping in for a quick second, the very first question we got from one of the folks, we have hundreds of questions actually from someone in the audience, but it's from someone named Spiro in New York. And I was hoping that I could just read this question, and it's really directed at the Consul General Koutras, and it says Yasu Olus. I actually have an interview for my Greek citizenship with the Greek Consulate next Friday. I have no idea what they will ask me. Are you able to shed some light on that? Any ideas what to be prepared for, to be asked? Many thanks.
Tell him to relax. We are so proud and we are honored to have people here interviewed for the Greek citizenship. Tell him to relax.
Bravo. I think that's a good message. These interviews are not a gotcha type of proposition. The consulate is opening its doors and it's looking to actually grant these citizenships to those whom have applied and are eligible. Well said. I think that's going to put, was it Spiro? Spiro, be at ease and enjoy your interview.
Spiro just wrote in and said, laugh out loud, thank you, with an exclamation point.
It made me feel better, so.
Tasso, you too.
I got a little worried as well. George, there's some other great questions. Do you want to jump in?
So many great questions. We're going to try to shoot at as many as possible. One of them is an interesting one. So we're talking about getting the citizenship. We're eager. Let's do it. Let's get our double citizenship. Somebody is asking, will I be subject to double taxation if I go down this road? Either
You know,
Tasso or Dr. Koutras, would you like to answer that?
There is a bilateral agreement between the United States and Greece for the avoidance of double taxation. And Tassos can elaborate on that.
yes, that's all. It depends on where you're domiciled for what period of time and for how long. So if you are a permanent resident of the United States and you are also a Greek citizen, you can waive out of paying taxes there. And it basically depends on where you live and for how long. But if you're permanent somewhere else, you're safe.
Can you file for the 6166 form that states that you are a tax resident of the United States, and for tax purposes, the double taxation treaty between Greece and the United States, allows you to pay taxes only in the United States, for instance.
Great. So there you go. So there's no downside from that perspective. Another question, should I get my citizenship for myself and my children at the same time?
If you are not registered, you'll have to register yourself first, and then you can apply for your children. But yes, you should begin gathering all the documents and being prepared. But until you are logged in or registered or on record, you can't apply for the kids.
And
Perfect.
I could chime in. That's actually the approach that I took. My mom and I both registered at the same time. So then we could send everything in for translation and apostolization together. We pulled marriage certificates, and I needed a marriage certificate, and it was her marriage. So it worked for everybody.
Great. Question here. This is actually a good one, and one that we had planned to touch on a little bit. Can we discuss the permanent residency versus citizenship? I know it does not include a Greek passport, but seems like an easier, I think, option for those living in Greece. That's an especially timely question, because it is my understanding that Greece is actually advocating or inviting people to come and live there through something called a digital nomad. And I believe they will be issuing these digital nomad visas. So Greece is opening its arms. It's advertising that the internet is great and fast. And, just picture your laptop with a background, beautiful seascape or the Acropolis, and being able to work remotely. So there's definitely a push for that. Dr. Koutras, Tasso, or anybody else, if you can speak a little bit to that, and also to the Golden Visa program that is available for individuals whom will make some sort of investment into the country, granting them the ability for residency status.
Sure, I'll take a minute, and I'm sure Dr. Koutras has a lot more info on that. But the digital nomad visa, I think, is just a brilliant, innovative idea. I think if you are someone who can, in this new economy, work remotely, what better place to do it than Greece? And what an amazing idea. What we know is that it's not implemented just yet, but it will be a 1-year visa that will be granted for digital nomads, and people will be taxed at a base of 50% of their salary. So if you make $10 a year, you'll only be taxed as if you made $5. So it's very attractive if you're living in, say, France or somewhere with very high taxes, or the US, and you want to get a visa for a year, go work from Greece, and be taxed on only 50% of your income. It's just an amazing thing if you have the ability to do that for work, and if your company will allow it.
Excellent, excellent. Tasso, you said it in the best way, in the best possible way, I could say that.
Thanks.
As well. And we have to differentiate the residence permit from the citizenship. So all the Greek Americans, they have the right to get their citizenship. It's not the residency, the permanent resident, it's not a substitute for that. The residency is for foreign nationals, third country nationals, that they would like to live a longer period in Greece, in the European Union. For example, a concrete example, a US citizen is allowed to stay in Greece for up to 90 days in a period of 180 days. In 6 months, you are entitled to stay in Greece, in the Schengen area, not only in Greece, for 90 days. If you want to stay longer, for different reasons, there are different type of visas For example, we have a lot of applications for that area during the pandemic for financially independent people, people that they have a certain income in the United States, but they prefer to live in Greece during that period. US nationals, not any relations with Greece. So you apply for a visa, you submit your documentation. Within 1 or 2 days, you get your visa for 1 year. You are going to Greece. If you like there and you want to stay more, you go to the police department or to the αποκεντρωμένη διοίκηση there, and you apply for a permanent residency permit. Very easy procedure, and you are entitled for 2 years or 3 years, and then renewable. So there are different type of visas, but this procedure is completely different from the citizenship acquisition.
Consul General, thank you for mentioning the financially independent person visa, because I think that's of great interest probably to a lot of people. But would you mind telling everyone that's listening in, like what kind of financials you need to have, like, you know, the amount of money that you need to have? Because I think a lot of people think like, oh, it's millions, but actually it's not. It's very modest. It's
very modest, and it is nothing. It's something between 2,000 to 2,500 euros per month.
Yeah.
For US citizen, it is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are
also, I want to, we have 5 minutes left before, if it's okay with everyone, could we stay with all the panelists? Would you mind it? Because we have so many questions. Could we stay a few minutes longer? Would that be okay with everybody?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Is that all right? Thank you very much. Okay. George, back to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Peter. We're getting a lot of these, Dr. Koutras or Tasso, we're getting a lot of these military questions. And I think this is a layover from yesteryear, perhaps, where I know when I was growing up, the question was, you know, will I be stuck in Greece? If I register, do I have to go to the military? I know, Dr. Koutras, you mentioned it in your discussion a little bit earlier. Can you please provide a little bit more clarification? It seems like this question is coming up over and over in the chat.
Of course, not only the US-born Greek Americans, but every citizen here with the American passport living in the United States for, let's say, for work, for 7 years or for 11 years, no matter what he is doing or he is doing here, sorry, they are entitled to get a permanent residence abroad. With this certification, with this certificate, you are not going to the army unless you would like to. This is a very easy procedure. Not even necessary to come to the consulate in order to get it. The whole procedure is completed through the digital, let's say, route. You are sending your documentation, we are examining, we are validated, you are sending a money order or, you're sending a money order to the consulate, and the situation is completed. Nothing to afraid of. Within 1 or 2 days, the whole procedure is completed.
Excellent. Now we received the converse of the question. If I decide to serve in the Greek military,
yes.
Can I get my citizenship?
In order to serve to the military, you have to have your citizenship first. You cannot serve to the military with your US citizenship.
Gotcha. Excellent. All right. All right. So many questions. Is there an appetite for a very specific one? Let's see right here. Okay, are you guys ready? I have carefully...
Can I interrupt for just 1 second on the military service thing? One of the things we've seen a bunch is that someone wants to waive out of military service and show that they're a permanent resident here, but they have problems showing supporting documentation because they may be off the books or not necessarily papered properly for their status. And if that's the scenario, what we've seen and what we've seen work here and there is a letter from the employer saying this person has been employed here for X amount of years. And I'm sure there's not many of those on the call, but just in case, because that's a question that we get often.
Great. Thank you, Tasso. All right, ready for this. I have carefully reviewed the necessary documents necessary to submit, but cannot acquire my grandparents' marriage certificate. I have authentic records from Ellis Island, from the ship's manifest. Can that be considered? Can that be considered a valid document? My valid documentation of my grandfather and grandmother's journey from Tripolis. If it's too much, we can answer it offline for this individual, but I thought it'd be fun to just throw it out there to you guys.
My initial instinct is no, that's not enough, but I do want to I have to look into that more to give 100% answer, but I think the answer is no. The ship manifest.
Correct. It's not enough. It's not enough. But it will give us an indication where to search in Greece. And sometimes through the digital, let's say, route, it's not possible to access these huge books, used to be taken care of in Greece. And we are sending some letters to the municipalities or to the kinodites of that period. And in most of the cases, we are finding some records of those people. It's not an easy task, though, but we can try.
I think that this question highlights that often the challenge with this process is not the Greek government, it's not the consulate, but it's our own keeping of records in the United States, and the challenges of the immigration journey, and documents lost in World War II, and many other places along the way. And so I think it's kind of a testament to how well the people in Greece are running this process, and how sometimes the challenge can just be in our own drawing of that link between ourselves today and those family members who were in Greece.
That's important. That was a big problem for me, because the last name Poulos had been changed from Poulimanakos, but there actually wasn't any legal document that showed that, because it had never legally really been changed. And it was because of the help of everyone at the consulate, that we were able to actually move forward with it.
And it seems kind of encouraging that Dr. Koutras is just saying, even though that's not the correct record, we will help you, we will figure it out. I mean, I've stood in line at the DMV plenty of times before, and unless you have exactly the right things, exactly a utility bill and exactly a passport or whatever, they'll turn you back. And so I'm very encouraged by what the Consul General is saying.
Again, that's a testament to this administration's opening of their doors to really help the process go along. It's not a question of, how do we get these people out of here as quickly as possible and unhelped. It's to actually get them the information they need and on the right track, and bring them in to the path that they're looking to go on. So thank you again, Dr. Koutras, for that. This question came up a couple of times, and I think it has to do a little bit with spelling, a little bit with what happens when people are baptized, and what happens with translations. What happens when your Greek last name is different from your US last name? There are three questions. Three of these questions have come in. Can we get a little bit of clarity?
Very easy answer. Especially during the pandemic, we had cases where the US passport, the name on the US passport was completely different from the Greek one. Very easy answer. You get a πιστοποιητικό ταυτοπροσωπείας from the consulate, not even necessary to come here digitally, saying that George Zappa, for example, is exactly the same person as Georgios Zapantis. No problem at all. Free to travel.
Very helpful.
Not necessary even to come to the consulate, as I told you.
George, you're on mute.
And I just shared the most brilliant epiphany during that 10 seconds that I was on mute. Thank you for giving me the heads up, Peter. There are so many questions. I'd like to say, we're extending here because we'd like to get to as many as possible. But is there anything that either Tasso or Eunice or Peter, in your experience, anything you'd like to add before we jump on to another question?
I think the main thing, and Dr. Koutras mentioned it in his introduction, and it's something that I personally am dealing with and having issues with, is just documenting and registering your life events along the way. This is now something that most of us are going to have to deal with. And I'm only first generation, okay? But if you're second or third and your lineage is going back to pre-World War II, there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. And once I have my affairs in order, I plan to document everything on the heels of that experience. So.
Yeah, earlier we were speaking about the opportunities to do business in Greece and to have a visa where you can work there, or you develop citizenship so that you can work there long term. I just wanted to highlight that the Hellenic Initiative has been doing some pretty remarkable work in fostering the tech community and the startup community in Greece. It's very vibrant. There's a lot of energy. Very smart people are partnering, very smart entrepreneurs in Greece are partnering with very smart business professionals throughout the world and throughout the diaspora. And so I applaud THI and thank everybody on this call for supporting THI in further developing the strong nation that Greece is.
I would just like to add to that and say that during the process of getting my Greek citizenship, I felt that there was sort of so many documents and so many things that needed to get done that I decided to put everything in a binder with a table of contents.
Wow.
I had copies made of everything, and even if I had, even if I got an apostille on something or I had to get an affidavit on something, I went and made copies of it in triplicate, and put it like in the binder. And so it was extremely easy reference, for anybody, at the consulate or any of the offices that I needed to go to. Like, I wanted to make the job as easy for them as possible, not just sort of hand them, a haphazard folder, with a bunch of papers sticking out of it and hoping that they would make it all nice for me and give me my citizenship.
That's key, Peter. And I mean, I think that's true in doing business anywhere. If you provide the information completely and clearly, it will benefit you.
That was exemplary. That was amazing what Peter has done and how he has organized everything. Another thing that I would like to mention, please, George, if you allow me, from the accountability, let's say, perspective, somebody asked, we are receiving 100 requests per day, average, in the registry department. How many of them can we proceed successfully per day? The number is 5 to 7 maximum. Two people are, you are professionals. You cannot deal with that amount. You cannot. It's humanly impossible to have more than 5 to 7 cases, maximum 7 cases solved per day.
Right, and that's something to think about when you're working with the various offices in Greece, if you choose to do that. It's extremely important to approach those offices with respect and the people in those offices with respect, because they do have a large workload. And like I said earlier, kind of maybe waltzing in with an American attitude of, get this done now, it just won't work. And so don't use that approach.
Consul General, have you ever, in your career in diplomatic service, have you ever seen this kind of interest from Greeks in the diaspora in obtaining their Greek citizenship?
First time, Peter. This is the first time.
Yeah.
First time. As regards the passports, we give you some numbers. We are issuing something between 30, 35, 25 per day on a daily basis.
And so since the beginning of the year, how many passports have you issued, do you know?
2,500 yesterday, 2,600, 500 something from the January 1st until yesterday.
And how much staff have you increased to handle all of that?
Decreased, actually, not increased. But we are trying, as I told you before, Evelyn Canelea, Miss Canelea, who is a very senior officer, head of the cultural department, since we don't have anything cultural events. You remember, Peter, we used to have 2 to 3 cultural events per month in New York. Miss Canelea now is serving in the registry department. So we are trying to make some internal reform as regards the personnel here in order to serve better our community.
As a community, is there ways that we can help you at the consulate? Like, are there volunteer opportunities for people?
People don't ask such questions. Of course you can help. Send me some interns. We would love to have students to work with us. We can have, you can send us students of any discipline, either law or whatever, and they can help us in order to help us here dealing with the huge load of work that we have, especially during the summer.
That's good for us to know, because we
highly
have
appreciated.
Yeah, that's good for us to know. I mean, we have, just on social media alone, we have close to 12,000 followers just on Instagram, 25,000 on Facebook, like just as many on Twitter and LinkedIn. And so I think what we can do as an organization for all of you is, sort of put the word out there, that you're looking for interns, to sort of help with the workload at the consulate. We're happy to do that.
And you know something, the internship project is a win-win situation. The interns do not only help us in order to deal with the job, with the overload of work, we are learning from them. We are learning from them innovative methods to get a better service to the people. It is amazing how young people working at the consulate help us in order to ameliorate, to provide better service to our community.
George, should we ask one last question?
Yeah, so it looks like quite a few questions have come in with respect to property ownership and land ownership. I'm going to ask this one right here. My family left me many parcels of land and a house in Greece. Congratulations. I was able to I was able to put all the properties in my name and pay the taxes. Question. I've been told it's more advantageous to remain an American owning property in Greece, and that by becoming a citizen, the obligations are greater and possibly disadvantageous. Will managing the properties be easier if I am a citizen?
Not true. I wouldn't say that I agree with this approach. Tassos has already explained that before. Agreement for the avoidance of double taxation, problem solved.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so,
property tax in Greece is very reasonable. It's not, those of us, who live, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, California. I mean, καμία σχέση.
But really, ultimately, the question here is, owning the property, whether you're an American or a Greek, if you're subject to property taxes, the property taxes will be the same regardless. Is that correct?
Yes. Also, the question assumes from the person asking that they will possibly change residence or surrender one of their citizenships. So I don't know if you would go that far necessarily, right? But if you are living, let's say, in the U.S. and your option is to become a permanent Greek citizen, that would require you to obtain or maintain residence there for some extended period of time, which it doesn't seem like that is an option for most people, I would say, in this scenario, right?
Thank you, Tasso. So that is the question that the individual asking the question and some of the others need to ask themselves. Is this a scenario where somebody is retiring and they're considering moving over there and they're able to formalize one over the other, and that way, the tax implications of the other country is the one that's going to take hold, or if it's a dual citizenship scenario, that will depend on the individual fact pattern. And you would be encouraged to consult the consulate or an attorney like Tasso to walk you through that process. I'm going to ask one last
accountant.
And an accountant, certainly. Maybe perhaps the accountant first, right,
Yes.
Tasso?
Correct.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
We're bad at math in our profession.
So I'm gonna ask one final question, only because it's come up so much, and it's something that everyone's going to need to do when they embark on the process. And that question is with respect to translation. The question is, who can translate for people? Does the translation happen at the consulate? Does the translation happen by an attorney? Does the translation happen by my Thea Maria, who knows Greek and English really well? What's the route for people?
Very easy answer. There is a list of certified translators hanged on our website. No problem at all. Several of them in New York area, in Chicago area, across the United States of America.
Perfect. So everyone should consult the consulate in their area and ask them for that list of certified translators that that are known to them, and they can get started with the process right then and there. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, as we reach the conclusion of this program, I'd like to thank first and foremost THI for hosting this event. THI, together with Peter and Artemis, are absolutely phenomenal with the community outreach and the good that they do for Greece on a daily basis. I don't think I can emphasize that enough, and I think it needs to be said. And you guys, along with your entire team there at THI. I'd also like to thank our esteemed panelists, whom I call great friends as well, Dr. Koutras, Eunice Bueller, Tasso Pardalis, for your participation. At this point, I'd like to turn it back over to you, Peter, for your closing remarks. And thank you to all the participants. I'm blown away by the number of people that are logged on globally and with the questions. We're going to try to, Tasso, if you don't mind, and Dr. Koutras, we're going to try to circle back with some of those questions in the chat offline, because there are just so many, and we'd like to give the viewers the value add for participating today.
I love it.
Peter?
May I interrupt for one quick second before? I just want to say it was a real honor to be a part of this panel, and thank you guys for having me. But I also wanted to, and I hope I'm not being too forward, Peter, but I recently started following Peter on Instagram a few weeks ago at George's suggestion. And Peter posts our photos of his walks around Athens and the architectural wonders and the marketplaces he comes through and the buildings he comes through, and it's amazing. And I would urge everyone to follow. I can't stop looking at them. So thanks for telling me, George, and thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Tasso. Yeah.
Sure.
Just so everyone knows, my Instagram is Mr. Peter and Mr. Stavros, because Mr. Stavros is my dog. So you'll get to see things through his eyes as well.
Oh,
Eunice,
I get it now.
Eunice, any last comments?
Oh, thank you very much to all of the participants. Thank you to my fellow panelists. It's an honor to be here with you. Those watching, go out and get your Greek citizenship. It's truly, it's one of the greatest honors of my life to be a citizen of Greece. It's a country I love. It's a country that's given me so much. And I hope that your deeper connection with Greece can bring a lot of joy to you as well.
Thank you, Eunice.
Well said.
Dr. Koutras, any last comment?
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you, the Hellenic Initiative. Thank you so much personally. It was an amazing event, and we are always here to answer the questions and meet the expectations of our people out there.
Thank you. Thank you again to THI's Global Corporate Partners Programs Law Committee for hosting this and putting this together today, to all of you. To THI staff, once again, in particular to Artemis Kohas, and who's done amazing work connecting with all of our new leaders and putting these events together. Again, if you want to get in touch with the consulate in New York and you're in that regional area, just Google Consul General of New York. If you want to get in touch with the Hellenic Initiative, we're at the HellenicInitiative.org, or you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We've got a big community there. We do lots of events. And we're looking forward to seeing all of you in Greece as Greek citizens someday very soon.
And
Thank you all.
allow me one last comment. From May 28th and for the whole summer, we are going to have 8 or 9 or 10 direct flights from Chicago, from most probably from Boston, 3 from New York, from Philadelphia, from Atlanta, and from Washington. Direct flights to Greece. So everybody to our homeland this summer.
Thank you, everyone.
Amazing.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.